Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all our Sip&Talkers out there, no matter what time zone you are tuning in from.
Yeah, welcome in, everyone.
Welcome back to the Sip&Talk studio. I am Sunny, and sitting right across from me is someone who literally just downed his third Americano and is currently intensely studying a glowing satellite map of the Middle East.
Listen, the caffeine is highly necessary today. I am Joe, everyone's good friend, and I'm wide awake because this map is just... it is absolutely wild right now.
It really is. Honestly, the world over the last few days feels like we are watching an unscripted action movie, but in IMAX.
Oh, for sure. An IMAX movie with zero predictability.
Exactly. We were just talking about oil prices, and suddenly there is a massive military mobilization. So today's focus is exactly that. We are looking at this showdown in the Middle East, basically Trump's red line versus Beijing's peace play.
Yeah, we are unpacking this entire geopolitical chess game that stretches all the way from the Zagros Mountains right into the Indo-Pacific.
And a quick reminder for everyone before we get into the heavy stuff, we are going to be talking about some intense market movements today, but we are definitely not investment experts.
Right, no financial advice here. We are just looking at objective facts, analyzing the data, and, encouraging you to do your own critical thinking. We do not criticize or discriminate against any country's people. We just follow the data.
Speaking of data, the events of the past 48 hours leading up to today, April 7th, have just been staggering.
Yeah, they really have.
It all kicked off with an American F-15E Strike Eagle getting shot down over the Zagros Mountains in Iran.
Which is a massive deal. But what happened next is what really shifted the global narrative. The military didn't just quietly try to negotiate. They launched a massive CSAR operation.
A combat search and rescue, right?
Exactly. And it was huge. They mobilized over 155 aircraft for this.
Wow, 155 just for one pilot.
Yeah, just for one pilot. You had A-10 Warhogs flying in low, HH-60W rescue helicopters, and a whole swarm of decoy planes to confuse the radar. Yeah. And they actually pulled it off. They successfully extracted the pilot.
I saw that on social media. Trump immediately jumped on Truth Social and posted, in all caps, "We got him."
He did. And from a strategic perspective, that operation is huge because it basically erases that lingering psychological shadow of Black Hawk Down for the military.
Oh, I see. It shows the troops that they will absolutely come for you.
Right. It is a massive morale booster. And it sets the stage for this crazy ultimatum we are looking at right now.
Yes, the 8 p.m. deadline. Trump has basically drawn a strict line in the sand. He said Iran has to reopen the Strait of Hormuz by 8:00 p.m. Eastern Time today, or they are going to face, quote, hellish consequences.
And we already know he is not bluffing, because right before this deadline, U.S. and Israeli forces did a precision strike on a bridge near Qom.
And we really need to talk about the tech behind that strike, because it wasn't just, standard carpet bombing.
No, not at all. It was next-gen warfare.
Right. It was an autonomous coordinated swarm, which, let me just translate that for a second. We are talking about missiles and drones that are literally communicating with each other via satellite link in real time.
Yeah, making decisions on the fly.
Exactly. They are collectively deciding mid-air which specific projectile is going to hit which specific pillar of the bridge. It is wild.
It is basically Silicon Valley processing power applied directly to a kinetic strike.
Yeah.
But that military action instantly rippled into the global economy.
Oh, immediately. The second the standoff escalated, we saw WTI crude futures just spike straight to $114.83.
Which is painful for everyone.
It is. And actually, we got a really great question from a listener about this. They asked, hey, if the U.S. is this massive oil producer now, why don't Asian countries like Taiwan and Japan just buy American oil instead of relying on the super volatile Middle East?
It is such a logical question on the surface. Just change your supplier, right? But it really comes down to harsh, rational hardware logic.
The actual chemistry of the oil.
Yeah. Exactly. Middle East crude is generally what they call sour and heavy. But U.S. shale oil, that is sweet and light.
Right. So it is kind of like if you have a huge truck engine that was built specifically for heavy diesel, and suddenly you try to just pump high-octane premium gasoline into it.
Yeah, that engine is going to be destroyed.
It wouldn't just run poorly. You would have to spend, tens of billions of dollars to completely retrofit these Asian refineries, like the ones run by Taiwan's PC Corporation, because they were engineered decades ago for that sour Middle Eastern oil.
And then you have to factor in the logistics, right? Shipping oil all the way across the Pacific Ocean or trying to squeeze it through the Panama Canal is way more expensive than just taking the standard Indian Ocean route.
It is a massive geographical disadvantage.
But, a shift is slowly happening.
Yeah.
Taiwan has actually dropped its reliance on Middle East oil from 45% down to 34.9%.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize it dropped that much.
Yeah, and their U.S. oil imports surged to 61.8%. But it is just a very slow, physically constrained process.
Well, that kind of energy dependency brings up another huge issue. If the U.S. is putting its foot down in the Middle East to protect these global shipping lanes, where are its European allies?
Honestly, they are basically MIA. The rejections have been pretty shocking.
Really? Who said no?
I mean, Spain, Italy, and France have flat out denied the U.S. airspace and base access for these specific operations.
You are kidding. Not even airspace.
Nope. The U.K. did allow base usage, but they were super strict about it. They said it can only be used for defensive purposes.
Wow. That has got to be infuriating for Trump. I mean, he already views NATO as this one-way street where the U.S. funds, 60% of the entire $1.5 trillion budget?
Yes, 60%.
Yeah.
And he feels like the U.S. gets zero help when they actually need it.
So why doesn't he just pull out of NATO then?
Well, it is a legal trap. Article 13 does allow a country to withdraw after a one-year notice, but Congress got ahead of this in 2023. They passed Section 1250A.
Okay, what does that do?
It completely blocks the president from unilaterally withdrawing from NATO without a two-thirds Senate majority.
And getting a two-thirds majority on anything right now is basically impossible.
Exactly. So since he can't officially leave, Trump is basically creating a workaround. They're calling it NATO 3.0, or a dormant NATO.
A dormant NATO? What does that actually look like in practice?
The U.S. is going to shift its conventional forces away from Europe and move them to the Indo-Pacific. And they are demanding that Europe pay 5% of its GDP for defense.
5%. That is a huge jump.
It is massive. And to bypass all the slow NATO bureaucracy, the U.S. is just forming really strong bilateral agreements with specific loyal allies, like Poland, for example.
But doesn't that carry a huge long-term risk? I mean, if you create this weird class system of allies within Europe, aren't you going to push those alienated nations like France or Spain closer to Beijing?
It is a risk, sure.
Yeah.
But realistically, the CE can barely align with Russia, and they share a border. The idea that they could smoothly align with Western Europe is pretty far-fetched.
That makes sense. So this entire NATO 3.0 strategy is really just about freeing up resources so the U.S. can completely pivot to the Indo-Pacific and focus on the CP.
100%. That is the real strategic focus. I actually heard some insights from a recent interview with a U.S. Congressional Chief of Staff, and they were pointing out how effective this strategy of strategic ambiguity actually is.
How so?
Well, Trump's unpredictable, heavy-handed strikes in the Middle East right now, combined with his past actions in places like Venezuela, have genuinely shocked the CVP.
Oh, so they don't know what he's going to do next.
Exactly. It makes them seriously reconsider the risks of trying anything kinetic with Taiwan.
And the U.S. isn't just relying on being unpredictable. There's real money moving. They just committed to an $11 billion arms sale to Taiwan.
Yeah, the hardware is moving into place.
And Taiwan is stepping up internally, too, like extending their military conscription. It really reminds me of that old Latin proverb, si vis pacem parabellum, if you want peace, prepare for war.
Which is so relevant right now. Because the CP is also dealing with some extreme internal fragility.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look at their real estate crisis. It is a disaster. Plus, they are drowning in toxic debt from all those Belt and Road infrastructure loans in Africa that are just defaulting left and right.
They're definitely vulnerable.
But at the same time, I have to push back a little on this idea of a simple economic decoupling.
Why is that?
It just feels a bit hypocritical. Western corporations spent the entire 1990s basically building the exact economic engine that made the CP so powerful today. You can't just untangle that overnight.
No, you really can't. It is deeply intertwined. But that is also why Taiwan's greatest weapon isn't just missiles and hardware.
Right. It is their soft power.
Exactly. The sheer fact that Taiwan exists as a thriving democracy in the Chinese-speaking world fundamentally destroys the CP's whole narrative. That democracy is just this Western concept.
It proves that narrative is completely fake.
Yeah. And historically, whenever anyone tried to trust the CCP, like the KMT did in the past, it ended in total failure. You cannot operate on trust here.
So this whole standoff in the Indo-Pacific, it is not just going to be fought with traditional troops. We are looking at a war of extreme next-generation infrastructure.
Oh, for sure. Just look at what is happening in space.
Right. SpaceX just filed for a $2.1 trillion IPO.
Trillion, with a T. And the reason for that valuation is because they are merging with XAI to build orbital data centers.
Which, if you think about the physics of that, it's just brilliant. Down here on Earth, our energy grids can barely handle the cooling requirements for AI servers. But space offers infinite radiation cooling. You just vent the heat into the vacuum of space.
It completely bypasses the limitations of the Earth's energy grid.
And while space is heating up, pun intended, the sea is also seeing insane tech upgrades.
Yeah, the AUKUS alliance, that is the US, UK, and Australia, they're deploying neutral atom quantum navigation for their deep-sea submarines.
Wait, neutral atom quantum navigation? How does that even work?
So China frequently uses GPS jamming in the South China Sea.
Right, to blind ships.
Exactly. But these new subs don't even need satellites. They use quantum sensors to read gravity and the Earth's magnetic field. They can navigate in total electronic darkness without a single satellite ping.
That is mind-blowing. And apparently, the market loves it, because just the news of that tech caused Australian rare earth stocks to jump 3.2% in pre-market trading.
The capital is following the defense deck, for sure. Though Taiwan is actually struggling a bit on the tech deployment side.
With the T-dome system.
Yeah. They have this massive $1.25 trillion budget for the T-dome automated defense system, but it is totally gridlocked in their legislature.
Let me guess. Politics.
Yep. They are fighting over which district gets to build the sovereign computing center.
Unbelievable. The borders are exposed, and they are arguing over zoning. Well, that kind of political friction leads to a really fascinating paradox that I want to leave our listeners with today.
Let's hear it.
So we have a potential war starting at 8 p.m. tonight. Missiles are flying. The Middle East is on edge. So why the heck is the S&P 500 stock index actually rising today?
It feels completely wrong, doesn't it? But it is all about the psychology of Wall Street. The investors and the algorithms basically believe that short pain is better than long pain.
Meaning they think Trump's overwhelming force will just end this quickly?
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're betting this conflict is resolved in 2 to 3 weeks. Add in the massive AI infrastructure spending. I mean, Lumentum jumped 7% today, plus a shock jobs report adding 178,000 jobs. And the U.S. economic engine is basically just ignoring the geopolitical panic.
That is wild. The economy is just bulldozing right through the uncertainty.
It really is. So as always, we remind you to stay calm, keep watching the data, and think for yourselves.
Absolutely. Well, that wraps up our coverage for today. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure you subscribe to the Sip&Talk podcast so you never miss an update.
And hey, big shout out to our mutual friend Mickey's YouTube channel, Mickey to Life. Go check him out.
Yes, definitely. Although, Mickey, if you are listening, you really need to update your videos faster. I am officially complaining because your newest travel vlog is hidden behind a members-only paywall, and I really just want to save my money.
You are just going to have to pay up eventually.
Yeah, never. But seriously, go check out his channel, everyone. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We will see you all next time.